systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Wednesday Golf Show. This week for the Travelers Championship, the last and finally no-cut signature event of the season. So we'll talk about all that and more. Rory WD'd, if you didn't catch that on Monday. So it's 71 golfers that are going to be in the event this week. Got my guy Hoopster here with me as always. We're going to break down all things weather. Going to talk about the ownership. Going to go through the roster construction during the tiers. Big 4-day showdown contest, basically, right, Hoop? You got, 4 days. Everyone's going to be all the way up the board at the top of day one, think they're crushing it. And then all the other dudes have spike rounds on day two, and that changes. And then day three, same thing the other way. But what's going on, my friend? How you doing today?
Yeah, ready to dive in. Signature event. Again, we talked about it last time out. I don't hate these events. I think it's a good switch. I mean, especially with what they're doing on the main slates with the 5K price range where you're just basically throwing all those guys out the window and then it adjusts everyone. The 7K comes down to the 6, the 8 comes down to the 7. Now we have pretty straight up pricing. The one I'd say unfortunate thing is the Rory withdrawal, although we, kind of saw it coming, I think, a little bit, but it just eliminates one big decision that people would have to make up top. And with him out, it definitely means more ownership on Scotty, more on Xander, more on Ludwig, more on Morikawa. So I think all those guys, a little bit of a bump, and all of them to some degree are going to have relatively high ownership, and it's going to be much easier to build without that decision. I mean, you got 12.5 for Scotty, then a $1,300 price breakdown to Xander, and then a $1,000 price breakdown to Ludwig. So, in terms of making the big, fades or whatnot, it's just, man, I don't know. It's hard to gain big leverage, I think, this week. But we'll go through, see what we can find. A lot of our content, obviously, already up on the website. We get everything up nice and early for you guys. So you can get on over there and check it all out. But, definitely looking forward to it. We have some big names here going. And, I do think, we did get a lot of feedback last week, the Bryson Rory conversation. I think a lot of people like that. And, I really thought it was a good conversation we had on the Monday show. So if you guys haven't watched that show, the PGA First Look, I think it's a rare situation where you can actually go back and hear, good back and forth about the U.S. Open. So, excited to dive in and talk through this with you here.
And you know where you go back to do that? On this very YouTube station that you guys are on. And that's a good segue to the giveaway today, because we did hit the 7,000 subscribers on YouTube. I know at one point there was an over-under on 5,000, and we've smashed that, now up over 7,000. So appreciate all the support across the board. We are going to be giving away a $299 PGA annual membership, PGA only annual membership. Right now it does include Shiptimizer. It includes some of the other stuff that we'll talk about more in a minute. But like Hoop said, if you want to go to that, you can just go back to the live videos. You'll be able to scroll down just right there to that first look on Monday. 1.3K views, a lot of people checking it out. So a lot of good comments there. We appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do so, because that goes into the next one, the giveaway. If you guys aren't on X, you're going to have to get somebody to do this for you. We will have other ways to get into the giveaway before next week, but obviously we've talked plenty about it, Hoop and myself, other members as well that we're excited to meet, people coming down that are just coming to cheer us on, others in the tournament that we're excited to meet. But just to note, the giveaway is 5% of my winnings up to 50K. So again, not many people out there doing this that I know of, but already $1,000, because the last place prize is 20,000. First is obviously $1 million. So if I win the million, we've been clear on the first part of it. It'll be 5 giveaways of 5,000 for half of it. The other half will be decided upon. It'll be for Ship It Nation members, and it will be for things we do throughout the year. We're going to have for sure somebody come out to the President's Cup. We're going to have some other big events throughout the year too. But again, got to go and ship it first. So go to my X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at ToeTagginTambo. Find the tidbits for this week. Repost the tidbits, and then go down, follow me and Ship It Nation up to almost 5,700, just over 5,700 there, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the current thing that you need to do. If you guys want to check out the site, you could still go and use the code FGWC15, gets you 15% off any packages right now. They're all here. Right now, we've got it. So you do get Shiptimizer for a limited time free with any monthly or annual plan. So you can still take this down and lock in $33 a month, basically $1 a day, or you can lock this in at $254, which works out to just under $5 a week for the entire year. $5 a week for projections and ownership for the main slate. Same for the Showdown slates. The Stone for both the main and the Showdown. The slate plans for both the main and the Showdown. The core reports, the value reports, the player pools, the tier rankings, and then Lee's course fit rankings, the model rankings as well. So lots of great content, especially in the golf streets. You can convert and prorate to an all-access membership at any time that you guys want. Rick, this is incorrect. We do have round one projections and ownership.
Yeah, your sound cut out. I'll take over, Tambo. Yeah, so we do have all that information, obviously on the website, and then as Tambo shown here on the screen, you can always upgrade to all access as well at a very, very affordable rate. And then again, that's one thing that we're all about is affordability, and that's something that is never going to change over here at SHIPITNation.com. We're going to keep our prices very low and affordable. And we got some big things. I already started working on our NFL pricing, our NFL packages, and we're very excited to get that launched. And we're going to have some announcements on that relatively soon. Are you back with us?
It was working on Zoom. So
you're back. Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you're good. Good to go again. Yep.
Michael says he's got the good. It's everybody else that's missing out. There's like 10 people. So only those 10 we'll say. But no, sorry, guys. Yeah. I apologize. Definitely random, but it works on Zoom. So I just brought it back. Hopefully it's good here now. So maybe it's happening for some and not for
others. It did happen on Monday too. I wasn't sure if it was just me. I didn't say anything, but yeah. So we'll get our tech team on it and make sure we're good to go moving forward.
You know what it is? It's this internet speed's not as high as it usually is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Go Collect knows he's going to be down there with us in Detroit too. It's trying to do some things over here, but not quite giving us the best. But either way, we'll go back to it here. If there's anything else we need to show off after, we will. Hoop, if it happens again, just cut in and let me know.
Yep.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how are we giving away the giveaway. First off, let's do that. $299 is the PGA only annual membership. And then also one of our members, Ricardo, he had a huge week last week. He won, I think, over 20,000, but across multiple sets, like 16, 10, 6, 22, and something else. And he said he's giving away a $200 single entry, and that's going to be to members only. Our guy Bader Bear has a plan. He's giving away a $100 single entry, but that's going to be for round 2 of Showdown. So we'll talk more about that in the Discord. But just in general, what's the plan for the giveaway? I know the $200 single entry is going to go to a member, but if you want to be a member and use that code FGWC15, we'll give it away later this evening. So it gives people a chance to get in. But how are we giving away the membership on this show?
Yeah, since it's related to the subscriber number on this channel, it's got to be somebody in the YouTube chat. And it's definitely got to be related to next week, you and I winning, first and second in that in the Golf World Championship. So let's see, the best comment along the way as to why Hoop or Tambo should be holding that check at the end of the week. How about that?
Let's do it. Yeah, get it in there. And Takedown's been here, really support us. Says, you want to be here for the NFL season. It's interesting. I saw some comments along the way. You guys know I read everything. I'm not too concerned. We keep our head down and focused. But, we weren't really in the NFL conversation. And that's surprising because it was a huge year last year. 2 members winning the Millie Maker. We interviewed Dalton right here on this channel. Our guy Mark F. got the Showdown done. I had a huge year, won the 100K on FanDuel twice, into the King of the Beach. You had a huge week, at least one, but the one with Dak was massive with everything there and the members that week. So it was a really solid season for SHIPIT Nation. That was just year 1 of NFL. We got a ton more going on when it comes to it this season. So
I have a
you want to for NFL.
We will be in that conversation. All right. And there's, again, I'm not one, and we're both very humble guys, I'd say, for the most, especially in this industry, man. In this industry, the egos are just like massive. So when you compare us to these other people, much more humble, I just can't see a site that had more success than SHIPIT Nation members did last year when you factor everything in, the amount of entry fees, the week after week success, Showdown, main slate, Just so many different factors. I mean, we were playing Dak Prescott at like 5% ownership. We were on the Dak thing way before anyone else, and I'm a Dak hater. Like, just made so much cheese last year. If we're not in the conversation, I guess maybe that's just better for our members, because less people will have access to the quality content that we're going to be rolling out this NFL season.
That's what I'm thinking. Lots of fun stuff coming down the pipeline as well. I talked about earlier, Shiptimizer coming with it, but it's built for NFL already with that partnership. Billy's one is funny. Not giving it away yet, Billy, but I do love this comment because he's making a joke because everybody knows I'm Canadian. I don't really love hockey. Man, you got me nail biting down to the wire last night. I'm watching hockey now, Billy. We're all in on Edmonton coming back to take out Florida. That was crazy last night. And they were up so much when I was, finally get into it, this thing. And I'm like, okay, Edmonton's back 8-1 the previous game. Now we're here. So I'm a hockey fan right now, Billy. I appreciate you. Lots of good stuff going on with Oiler Nation there out in Edmonton, having the game 6 go back there. So it's making for a lot of fun. The NBA playoffs were a lot of fun. The Discord was great throughout the NBA playoffs as well. But Hoop, let's get into this Travelers Championship. We got to talk about it here. The big topic off the top is going to be Scottie Scheffler. Weather we'll talk about in a second. I'll pull it up and have a look. I know some people have mentioned some things on it already. I'm going to get the latest update, but talk to us a little bit about Scottie Scheffler, because one thing I'll say is as the week went on, not just the Rory WD, but I think it just got more and more, it's just easy to fit him, or people are more and more comfortable with a no cut, being able to play those guys down low. So I actually now see Scottie's ownership pushing up huge versus at the start of the week. I thought it might be somewhere closer to 30. I just don't think we're getting that anymore. I think we're going right back to the 35 to 40 plus range is where I kind of see it.
No cut event. We have viable guys in the 6K range, and then you take out a body or a golfer that could essentially challenge him for at least a little bit of ownership. I never thought Rory was going to be anywhere close to Scottie, but when he goes bye-bye, like, it definitely has to go to somewhere, and most likely it goes to Scottie or Xander right below him. You look at any sort of ownership projections, it's the top guys, the highest priced guys that are getting the most ownership this week, just because of how easy it is to fit them in. There's just not much resistance to it. Like, if you start with Scottie, you're at $7,500 per spot. There's a lot of guys in the 6Ks. There's a lot of guys in the 7Ks that we'll talk about. It's just easy to get them in. If you want to pair him with a guy like Morikawa, you can still do that. Like, you can play Scottie, Morikawa, and you got a little more than $6,900 per spot. If you want to play Scottie with Ludwig, you're at 68 and still make that happen as well. So that's one way to really gauge what ends up happening with ownership. Not only can you play Scottie comfortably, but you can play him relatively comfortably, pairing him with another high-priced guy based on the fact that it's a no-cut event, and we have other 6K guys in this range. Obviously, Scottie did not look like himself at the U.S. Open, but I feel pretty confident that he bounces right back. The books feel confident that he bounces right back. He's sitting at basically 3-1 to win this event. If he played well last week, he's probably in the $13,000 range. He's sitting at 12.5, easy to get him in, likely the highest owned guy on the slate, and rightfully so. So, I mean, it's, I don't know, a pretty basic conversation. There's really not much else to say about the Scottie situation going into this week. I don't think anyone's really holding his performance at the U.S. Open against him this week in terms of DFS and DFS ownership or anything along those lines. So he's going to be popular, rightfully so. And I think you and I both agree with that. We expect him to bounce back in a big way this week.
Yeah, I definitely expect that. I think this is a good comment, though. There is a lot of love in the 8K range. The one note, though, is you can still go Scottie with 2 8Ks. So if anything, that's, a build that Mayo and I looked at it on the show, and we did it yesterday. And I think that anybody in general that was looking at those builds can still get to it. No problem.
Yeah. You plug in Scottie and two. Who are the two popular guys that are probably like Henley and Harmon or something? You plug Scottie in with those two, you got your 68, almost 6,900. You can play one cheap 6K guy, a mid-tier 6K guy, and then you're back in the 7s for your last spot. So you can that's the reason why these expensive guys are going to be very popular, because you can play everyone else you want with Scottie and still make it all work. So there's just no resistance really this week. You can pair them, you can double spend, you can play them with a 9K, you can play them with 2 8K guys, and you can still make it all work.
That's the other thing too, is like just noticing in our Discord today, and as many people talked about throughout the week, even on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, people going on about it. It's like it started the week, like maybe it's just 1 or 2 guys down in the 6K range that people have interest in, but now it's like a pocket full for everybody. Everyone's got a few guys like, oh, Kitayama, Dunlap, Perez, Thor. We'll play all these guys. It's like, those are all good with me. And the next person's like, well, I could go to Grillo or Putnam or Hodges or Riley. Like Riley could show up here too. And it's like, okay. And then you start seeing more. Now, none of them, I don't think any of them, maybe Svensson being sort of the only one. Maybe Thor gets a little late steam, Seamus Powers, some of these guys, sure. But I'm saying I don't think any of them get out of control. What I see happening though is everyone starts fitting a few more into their pool. And then that does make it. And that's why I said Scotty just gets popped up even more. You can still play Scotty with a couple 8K guys. If you like more of those 8K guys, you may have to get a little bit different and just take your shot moving off of Scotty, popping down to like an Oberg, Cantlay, Morikawa, etc. But Hoop, anything else you want to talk about up top? Like Xander, Oberg, they're both right there. And it's a significant difference. It's $1,300 less for Schauffele than Scotty. And then it's another $1,000 discount dropping down to Oberg, like $1,400 from Xander down to Morikawa. So give me your quick thoughts on just the rest of this range and sort of how people may attack it based on those savings.
I mean, I just look at this top range and you just don't even really need to make tough decisions. Like you can play Scotty comfortably. You can go down to Xander. You have a $1,300 price break. So your Scotty lineups will look different from your Xander lineups because $1,300, you're able to get big upgrades. You're able to pair him with even more expensive guys now and make it all work. He's been playing incredibly well. And then if you want to save more money, you go $1,000 cheaper and you play Ludwig, who's been incredible. And then your lineups still looking different because of that huge price break between him and Xander, him and Scotty. So I don't know. It's kind of like a boring conversation at the top. They're all going to get decent ownership this week. They're all phenomenal plays in my eyes. And I mean, it's easy to play them too. You don't necessarily have to make the big stance up top. You can get them all in comfortably and have different sort of lineups, unique type lineups. So I don't know. I just don't really have a hot take up top. I like them all. I think they're all phenomenal plays, and it's easy as hell to play them this week.
Let me throw one in the chat here. I just want to get one for you guys real quick because I think what Hoop said, and I'm going to just, reiterate a couple points off it and just tie it in because this is really the thought process for me this week and just how you're seeing this stuff. This is just an example, right? But if you play Xander with Straka, just using him as one example, it's $1,000 to go up, $1,000 to go down. Who would you take in this 2v2? X Straka or Oberg Finau? Because that's an exact 2v2. You go down $1,000 from Xander to Oberg. You go up $1,000 from Straka to Finau. Yeah. And what I'll say is, while people are voting on this, is to Hoop's point, it's very easy to play anybody. Your Scotty builds can come together in multiple different ways. Your Xander builds can come together because you're getting that extra $1,300. And then for the Oberg one, I know it may feel, it sounds like the chat likes it more actually, but to some, I've heard them lean away from Oberg a little and just sort of not wanting to pay that much when you can go to Morikawa, Xander, or Schauffele, or Scheffler, Schauffele, a couple up there, but you do that, and maybe, people don't feel as good about it because the way his odds are and things like that. But in general, you can make any of these work. So it's like I always say, it's not who you play, it's how you play them. Even within the combination, then you can decide from down there what you're going to. But I think up top, you can play who you want to play. So whether it's single entry and MME, you can spread it out because these are the types of combinations. So I would say this, in MME, you may want to find it where you take more stands down low because you know what the top looks like and you have no idea. I mean, my point was, it's funny that the chat is actually this one-sided. Maybe it's just because of certain course fit rankings, or maybe it's because of other things. I'm not sure. I mean, they're both pretty good, to be honest, in that, but the chat seems to like Oberg Finau more. I thought we would get a lot of people that still like X Straka. And what I was going to say, and just I'll still tie it in because I'm sure the ownership still says similar as well, is that people will like both combos. But nobody can definitively tell you which one's going to do better. There, either of those could pop off here. So I was going to say, if MME, I would take more stands down low where you just play your guys that you want at the bottom. Don't try and fit in 10 different 6K guys and all the 7K guys and everything you need to do. Take your stands down low. Let these combinations work themselves out at the top because it's really hard to go, I should have went this one, I should have went that one. If it's single entry or 3 max, you are going to have to make your decisions. And that's why those in the chat making it right now sounds like you have a definitive if you did have a selection like that. But I would just caution you to make sure you are checking your combinations this week because there's a lot like this because of the separation in pricing at the top. Just a strategy piece, the way I look at things for sure is, you're always comparing these last 2v2s. Hoop, anything else you want to add on that? If not, we can hop into this small, only 6 golfer, 9K range.
Yeah, a lot of similar 2v2s that you're going to find this week as you laid out. I mean, I happen to like Finau quite a bit this week, so I'd probably lean that side. But if you're playing multiple lineups, it's easy to get those sorts of builds on both sides. The Xander Sep builds, and then the Aubert and Finau builds in the 9K range. Again, I think we probably see a lot of ownership in this range just because how easy it is to get here. Even if you want to play the top end guys, Morikawa at 9.8 is going to be very popular this week. He continues a phenomenal stretch of golf. 3rd, 9th, 16th, 4th, 2nd, 14th. He could easily be in that 10K range. He's only 9,800. I mean, if pricing came out after the Rory WD, Morikawa probably is a little bit more expensive and in that 10K range. He's sitting at 9,800. Patrick Cantlay finally looked good last week at the U.S. Open, has played well at this course. People go back to him this week? Yeah, probably. Talked about it on the Monday show. Hovland looks a little bit underpriced at 93. We've kind of seen him lead the way in this 9K price tag. He's consistently been the most expensive kind of guy in tier 2, I'd say, outside of like Scotty, Xander, Rory. He's always been in this next tier, like upper nines. Well, he's sitting at 9,300. I think people like going to him. Matsuyama's playing well. Fleetwood playing well. And then again, we talked about Sam Burns. He gets hot and cold, and right now he's kind of hot. 13th, did miss a cut at the PGA Championship, 10th, 15th, and then 9th last week. And I think he started out 6 under and just grinded his ass all the way back to even par on the week at a very tough course. So it was a good week for him. So I think there's all these guys get some degree of ownership in my eyes in this range, but it's going to be clearly led by Collin Morikawa, who's playing phenomenally well. I mean, he's playing right there with the Xander Schauffele's of the world, and he's less than 10K. So he's clearly going to be the most popular in this range, but I think the rest of them get some ownership as well. And I know we always get these conversations. Can you start here with your teams? And, to be honest with you, I don't know if I necessarily like that this week. People always ask, can you start the 9Ks? I think I want one of those guys up top in a large majority of my teams. I'm going to be doing 150 this week. So, yeah, I might end up with some teams that start in the 9K range. But man, I want Scotty, Xander, Ludwig, or Morikawa on like basically all my teams. Some at least one of those guys on all my teams this week.
And you can do that in Shiptimizer. So if you go over to SHIPIT Nation, you get that included with your monthly or annual membership. You can set up a group and put those 3 and make it play at least one of those 3 so that you have in all your lineups at least one of them. Let me make some quick notes here, Hoop, and then I'm going to elaborate on that. I was just going to say, don't pull up any comments yet.
That was a funny one, though. I like that one.
There's some good ones. That's what I'm saying. So take notes. Here's what we'll do. It's a no-cut event, so there'll be no keeper cut for this week. We're going to just keep it going. There's only 71 guys. We're going to go through it all. But we are going to have the chat vote on my favorite comment and Hoop's favorite comment at the end. And the community and those in the chat will decide on the winner. We'll count the votes up. Maybe with 5 minutes to go in the show, we'll each say our favorite comment. And then we'll set it up where you guys actually vote for the winner, because it's a lot of members in here too. And we're bringing somebody into the community for the next year. So super excited about that. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, we're going to do it again at 8,000. 10,000 will be the big giveaway, but for sure, just keep rolling with those subscriptions. Make sure you just click it. It's free to subscribe to the channel. I do want to talk about Ben's comment because it kind of ties into what you just said, Hoop. But again, it's not really about the guys in the 9K range for me as much as I am actually okay building with some of those 9K guys, but it's mainly because of this comment. The challenge is it is Scotty Scheffler. And like you said, the books don't care. What's funny is everyone was shitting on the guy, and after 2 days, he was still kind of in it. It was day 3 and day 4 where he needed to make it happen. And I know people say at 5 over and barely making the cut, he wasn't. The gap wasn't that much for the Scotty Scheffler we've seen all season for him to be able to make it up. He could have made up 4 strokes on Saturday and at least been in the conversation going into Sunday. That did not happen, and maybe it would have just been a top 10 or something, and so what? That would have been his worst of the year, right? So just looking at it from this perspective, I think he says, would the no cut impact how you'd approach him and I know it doesn't because you've already talked about this, but he's thinking you wouldn't need him as much because you're still going to have all the scoring from everybody else. But I think that's a bit of an assumption, right? Who is going to score? What if it's all the other guys around him? Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of the worst part.
Yeah, I mean, just have no clue what's going to happen. I mean, we can just speculate on what we think is going to happen and what the scoring is going to look like. If Scotty Scheffler goes out there and wins by 5 strokes this week, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, you're just going to need him. Like, it doesn't matter what the 9K range really does for the most part. You're going to need teams to start with Scotty Scheffler if you want to win money. And that's just the nature of what we do here.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the key of it as well. The reason I'm good with it is just because I'm going to be playing Scotty up top. I'm going to be playing Scotty. I'm going to play double stud lineups with multiples of them. That was one piece I didn't bring up earlier, but you talked about it yesterday. I think that's kind of the other thing with all the people saying, "Oh, I can only play a couple of these 6K guys. I'm going to pick my spots and choose my thing." I'm going to mix them up, but I'm going to take my stands down low. But I'm going to use them with different roster constructions where I can take on more risk by playing 3 of them, for example, or something like that. So that's one note. The second is if it's not Scotty, I don't think you just right away give it to one of these guys. Like, I definitely think there's guys that can show up. We've seen some crazy winners here in the past, just the way the course sets up. I think it sets up well for a lot of guys. And so I think there is lineups that you can go to. I know it's not for you, but for me, definitely on the other side of that, I think you could start lineups in this 9K range, play 3 9K guys, 2 9Ks, 2 8Ks. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can go to it. And Nick, our resident sheriff, he's searching for a sheriff hat and a shirt for Rocket Mortgage next week to wear it with the SHIPIT logo. If there's somehow a dead tie, you can help with the final vote. That's fair. We'll give you those privileges, extra added perk of being the Discord sheriff. We appreciate you. So I don't have much else here, Hoop. I guess it's like some of these guys are going overlooked. Like, I don't see as many people getting to Hovland. I don't see, Fleetwood, Burns, Decky, as much as I'm hearing Morikawa and Cantlay. Now, some of them are going to get the secondary ownership there, but then you have to remember with this segue, there is going to be people on Finau. People always love Henley, Connors, Harman, all these guys lately. And then you've got last year's champion Keegan playing back home, all these things. You've got Theegala, who always seems to get the ownership. And as M. Andrews mentioned earlier, this 8K range is nice. So talk to me about this 8K range. If you're starting with those guys up top, are you thinking lineups like one of the 3 plus 2 8Ks in some spots? Or what's your sort of thought process when it comes to these guys and the roster construction around them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the field will like the 8K range more than I do. You have Finau at the top, who I do have interest in. And Finau, again, we talked about it on the Monday show. He's been playing really well, 18th, 17th, 8th, 3rd at big events. 18th at the PGA Championship, 8th at the Memorial, 3rd at the U.S. Open. And I propose the question: is top 5 Tony back? Like, you don't play him to win, you play him to finish in the top 5, and he's 8,900, top 5. Your ass will definitely take that. So I am interested in Tony Finau at 89. Theegala, not a ton. Keegan, despite winning here last year and playing pretty well, I just don't think a lot of people are going to click the Keegan name at 8,700. So that's a situation I need to dive into a little bit more. I just don't, with everyone around him, I just don't think Keegan is the name that people click at 87. We've seen his price way cheaper almost all season long. So I think that's something to look into. Henley, course fit, recent play, all that lines up perfectly. Justin Thomas sucks. Corey Connors has been our boy. Harman plays well here. Spieth at 82. I just haven't really been playing Spieth. Tom Kim, he's priced where, he's been playing pretty well. I'll say that first. He's been playing pretty well. He had the 26th of the U.S. Open. He's priced where, top 15, we'll take, and I think he can get into the top 15. And then Matthew Fitzpatrick at 8K. I mean, he has been like the true roller coaster this year all over. Oh, he solved it because he got the weight out of his driver or whatever. Well, no, he didn't solve it because he's still playing like shit. So, I don't know. What is it with Fitzpatrick? I just don't have a super strong read on him. I'm not sure. I might still play him, to be honest with you, just because it's a price tag at 8K, but it is definitely a GPP type play, deeper tournament type stuff. But the names that stand out here for me, definitely Finau, Henley. Sticking with their boy Connors. I mean, Connors just continues to impress. And then Brian Harman, I think the course sets up well for him. He's had a lot of success. Similar to Tom Kim, where we're seeing a lot of 20 place and 30 place finishes, where we just need him to get into that top 15. I think he can just go ahead and probably do that. So I'm good with him at 83. But Keegan's the one that's, man, I don't know what to do with Keegan this week. I'm still trying to figure out that situation.
So who does want to play keeper cut? He's interested in keeper cut.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, the subtle keeper cut.
I'm not typing it in, but you guys do Keegan Bradley, keeper cut. Again, keep the comments coming about the FGWC next week with Hoop and I involved, and that's how you win the $299 PGA annual only membership. I will say it was brought up here, just making fun of your subtleness on your Justin Thomas line, but there was another one I saw somebody said that I thought was interesting. Oh, Joshua. I like this call, not on Burns. Again, not about the play. I'm talking about what we were mentioning earlier. Like it's 4 rounds of Showdown. Basically, there's going to be guys that suck on round 1, but what if they pop off for rounds 2 and rounds 3? That might be enough. Like the guys that can really pop, to me, start at Burns here, and it's like Burns, Theegala, Justin Thomas, Spieth, some of these guys that are really ugly clicks, that these are the guys that can actually pop off, and as long as they put up 2 insanely low rounds, that could be more than enough, and then it depends on what the rest of the guys do around them. So I'm kind of with M. Andrews earlier, and that's why I liked some of these builds, is because in this range, Theegala is definitely one that stands out to me. I was going to bring him up. I know you said you're not as high on him, but one of us is going to win this week. Second here a couple years ago, he's like 30-1 on the books to win this thing. He's won before. We've seen it. And then you look recently, and it's what we look for. Hoop 32nd, not great. 12th, miscut, not good. 12th, 52nd, not good. Second, 45th, 28th. Like, again, it's continuously a pattern with him, and also just it's not about the pattern. That's never what I'm looking at. It's just more of a bit or a joke when it comes to that. But in general, it's the guys that are like that are who you want to play. It's setting up for those spike rounds and all that stuff. So I saw it there. You got to it first. I just got the Discord notification. The final stone projections are available. They're loaded in Shiptimizer. They're loaded over with our partner at the Solver, and then lots more that you guys can check out. So if you're a member, you can go check it now. Up early. Love to see that. 2:30 Eastern on a Wednesday. Good to go with everything you need to start building your lineups. So go check it out. If you're not a member at SHIPIT Nation, now's the time to join. Get in using the code FGWC15. That locks in 15% off. You can use it on any of the monthly or annual plans, both PGA only and or the all access if you guys want to get that instead. So love that. Whoever got the stone emoji.
Sorry. Yeah, I saw this one too. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm not necessarily like a superstitious sort of guy, but when I saw the new Scotty look, I was like, oh man, like you wait till you start playing like Kraft to do something like that.
And this is another good comment M. Andrews brought in earlier, the other one. And now he says DK finally took the inform guys, most of them, and put them in the 8K range, and took the shit form guys and dropped them to the 7s. This is usually what's the one you always say, Hoop, zig when they zag? This is the scenario, right? Is it going to be Harmon, Russell Henley, and Corey Connors that crush this week and just hit as the chalk? Or is it going to be the dudes that you've been playing for months that now you're off of to play those guys that end up breaking hearts and doing well this week? And that's like, down in the 7Ks, you got Max Homa, Wyndham Clark, Benny Ann, up, down, fine. Cam Young, we talked about earlier today. Some of these other guys there, but then there's still the guys that stand out, like Straka, Siwoo, definitely going to be super popular. Harris English down at the bottom for whatever reason. He's 7,100 picking up steam, but you got Zalatoris, you got some of these other guys. So what are you doing in the 7K range here? Hoop, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a range where you start to see some guys that really haven't been playing all that well, and low price tags, like lowest price tags we've seen in a while. Sungjae looked to be back in form, and kind of fell off a little bit last week. But I'm gonna, people that struggled last week at the U.S. Open, I'm gonna not necessarily give a free pass, but to me it's a little bit different than struggling at just a random weekly event. Like those were tough conditions. A good shot could essentially be penalized. You hit it right next to the pin, it just rolls off. So going to give some free passes, and Sungjae is a guy that I'll definitely give one of those free passes to. Sepp Straka as well had one, I believe, really, really bad round. Shot the 78 in round 3. Outside of that, was pretty good last week, and continued some solid play. So good with him. Max Homa is one of these guys where we just haven't seen him down this low in a very, very long time, and it is probably a warranted price tag because of how poorly he's been playing. But at 7,800 for Max Homa, I gotta take some chances. I just can't forget about him. Your boy Adam Scott, 77. I'm with you this week. I'm in on him. Denny McCarthy, it seems like a course that he could have success at. Siwoo Kim, Seabass, JT Poston, 7,300. I think is a very strong play. You look at Poston, kind of been playing well. 12th, 22nd at the Memorial, very tough tournament. 32nd at the U.S. Open, very, very tough tournament. I like him this week. I think the course sets up well. So 73 for him. I think very solid option. Horschel, been playing well, finished 41st last week, but I mean, probably the best golf he's played in at least a couple years, 73. Our guy, Taylor Pendrith, I mean, just continues to get the job done. We talked about it on the Monday show, but I mean, you go back the last basically 6 out of 7 events, like he's exceeded expectations. 11th, 1st, 10th, missed the cut at the PGA, 21st, 33rd, and then 16 the last 2 weeks. I mean, those are big time performances. 33rd at the Memorial, very good for him. He was dirt cheap. I think he was like low 6Ks. I can't remember. Or was he even in the 5Ks I can't remember exactly what he was at the Memorial, but I mean, really, exceeded expectations there. 16th last week, a very quiet 16th, 71, 70, 70, 72. So no blow up rounds at the US Open last week. Definitely in on Pendrith. You mentioned Harris English, Tom Hoagie. There's a lot of guys in this range that you can consider, but I'd say the overall theme of this range are guys that have kind of been playing poorly and they're at really low price tags. Like, what do you do with the guys like, even you can throw Wyndham Clark in there, Wyndham Clark, Max Homa, Sung Jae coming off the really bad performance last week, Cam Young. So I'd say that's definitely the overwhelming theme here, guys that we typically don't see in the sevens, but they're down here because of how poorly they've been playing.
Yeah, Go Collect, our guy, Go Collect. He says people can struggle at the U.S. Open and still maintain some form. You kind of hit on that. I did have a question for you, Hoop, because I mean, someone else like Deacon, shout out to you, said love Steven Yeager this week, would be a guy for sure. Like I'm talking about targeting these guys. Give me 2 of those low rounds. We did have this one last week. I posted this one on X. I posted it in the slate plan, not because of the fade. Obviously, that was the joke, but definitely got away with it. And almost I faded. I think I had a small percentage from the lineups that Mayo and I built in the $15 last week. I played Scotty in other places, but in that tournament, Hoop, I still lost $100. I got almost all my money back except $100 in that tournament. So even when you get the fade right, it still doesn't always work out. So Hayden says this, Hoop says, how important is it to focus more on win equity in no-cut tournaments rather than just going for a 6 of 6 since there's no cut? I mean, talking about stars and scrubs and just not worrying about it. But to me, the winner is going to just add to those points. How do you get to the top? How do you win? You score a bunch. So, I mean, you're going to need that still no matter what. And that should be some of the decisions you're making when you're building. But how do you focus on it? Like if you weren't playing Scotty, how would you try and get after it? He's obviously got tons of win equity here.
Well, yeah, the main thing is, I mean, regardless of the week, you're most likely going to need the guy to go ahead and win the golf tournament, and especially if someone wins by a wide margin, like we talked about. If Scotty goes out and wins by 5 or 6, you're just going to need him because he's going to be so highly owned. He's going to dust the field, and there's so many different guys that you can play him with. I mean, there's not many guys that you can't play him with. Yes, if you go Scotty and Xander, your teams are going to be pretty thin, but outside of that, you can play him with everyone. So yeah, I mean, win equity is super important every single week. It's just easier to build in these no-cut events to get in more win equity because you can take more of the chances at the bottom. And I don't know if that exactly answers the question, but that's just how I view it, in the field views it. You see it all the time. I mean, it's just more stars and scrubs type teams because you're guaranteed to get the four rounds. When you're building at a cut event, you're trying to, yes, build with the win equity, but also factor in some guys that you think are safe-ish to make the cut. You don't have to worry about that in weeks like this. So yeah, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. Like you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. All different ways have prevailed in no cut events, like stars and scrubs. Yeah, some weeks it's going to win. Balance builds, yeah, some weeks those are going to win at no cut events, but you do see a lot of people going to more stars and scrubs at no cut events. Not sure if that answers the question, but that's
no, it's good. I got a couple here I'll pull up. I mean, this one, biggest concern to me would be putting. If you look last week, he even talked about it in the interview today that he did. It was talking about the wire grass as everyone was having their drinking games too last week. Every time it got mentioned, you would have been absolutely slammed because they talked about it every 2 seconds. He had said that was sort of throwing him off because usually he knows where to miss and what he can get away with. Last week, it kind of, got unlucky a bunch of times, couldn't really tell off the tee, and that's what caused the issue. Someone went back, I think it was my guy EPAT, shout out EPAT on Twitter. I think he said it's a smaller sample, but if you look, Scotty's never really done well at the Open. That all can change in a heartbeat, so just to note it, but he said that could be a reason why there as well, and that kind of ties into my thought. Scooter McGavin, always in Discord, posting bets in the betting channel too, says, first time not betting Homa equals auto top 5. I said this yesterday. You know what's going to happen with Homa? We've been saying major max all year. To me, like PGA championship for sure, US Open, probably first or second, and even Augusta National Golf Club. One of those three would be where I would expect Major Max, if he was going to show up. And then you know what's going to happen? He's going to show up big time at the Open. It'll be like a top 5 or better. It's just the way golf works. So keep an eye on that. Another thing about the way golf works, I'm going to just fire something into the sun. Let me find it here. It's a good one. Oh, this course history, fire it into the sun. Absolutely useless. I never use it. I don't care what anybody says, hot take or not. Oh, this, that, and the other. Like, I've been on this forever. Recent form, even if you take form longer term, and course fit. That's why we have the course fit rankings. Who fits the course and is in form? That's when we've seen the highest success level, not just SHIPIT Nation stuff. And let me just give you a quick example. Brian Harman has amazing course history here. With 5 of the last 6 years, he's come 8th or better with a missed cut. Well, golf has existed for a long time. And we talked about DFS back in 2017. And Brian Harman was 51st, 42nd, 3rd, a missed cut, and 35th coming into this event. People said bad course history. He sucks. And now, since then, 6th, 8th, 5th, 8th, 2nd. Keegan Bradley, last year, we talked about him. He was coming off of a 47th, a missed cut, a 19th, and had a 2nd 4 years ago. Oh, he sucks. No, but then he wins. Now he's good. Now it's in this area that he knows, and now he's awesome, and he's got great course history. Yeah. It's literally just on a piece of paper.
It goes to your point, and yeah, you use this in different ways, shapes, and forms. You use it in different sports, the same analogy. Someone has bad course history until they don't, until they go out and perform well at that course. Like, things can change over time. They kind of go
too. Imagine
exactly.
They put it all the time and they get better.
Yes, things can change. And it goes back to the point that I kind of made. There's no hard and fast rules that course history is so predictive that you have to use it. Like, this is a high variance sport, not even talking DFS, just golfers going out there and performing. Very, very high variance. Things can change very, very quick. And, I definitely agree with the point.
And I think too, it's like, it's talked about, like, again, I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth because we do content for a living around this. So of course you're bringing up, by the way, so-and-so came here last, but when I'm talking about it, oftentimes it's like they have recent form. I'm usually starting with that. And then I'm saying they played well here before. I'm actually still thinking of it of a course fit perspective. Like, obviously they've played well on this course or other similar course. I actually even like looking at correlation courses more than just the course history, because then you're still tying in course style and what their game fits for. And I think that's part of it. But again, that even can change in a heartbeat as well. Like you said, it's no different than some people come in at DFS and they're bad in the beginning. They join a site like SHIPIT Nation and start working on process and education and getting better, and they become a better player. And now their history is no longer bad. At this event this year, they start playing better DFS or whatever it might be. Just a quick analogy to keep it on brand. So I think that's one of the things you got to look at. It's don't play them until we do. Shout out to B-Wall, by the way. B-Wall was first in today in the chat. So it's just one of those little things. I think it's just, piece of the puzzle. It's fine, but don't completely take these guys out. The reason I, got a little triggered and brought it up was just because someone saying these 3 guys have bad course history. If you're taking guys out just because of that, definitely don't do that. And then you also have to think like Rin here. No EVR to talk about this week, so of course he's got to bring up something else. This is a good point. It makes too much sense to take guys like Homa, Clark, Jaeger, proven winners, instead of going $1,000 cheaper for guys that don't win or haven't won for a long time. I definitely think that's the game. That's the idea.
And I will say, just to add on to this bigger picture conversation before we move on, I think as people that do this, not even for a living, but for entertainment and trying to find that edge, I think that's what frustrates a lot of people with PGA DFS, is the fact that there are no hard and fast rules. You can't just go for week in and week out and say, all right, I'm taking all the course history guys with good course history and I'm playing them this week and I'm going to make money. I know that's the right strategy. Like, we don't. There's no hard and fast rules in PGA DFS compared to some of these other sports. In NFL, if you're playing a quarterback, 95% of the time you want to pair him with a wide receiver. And sometimes you want to pair him with a receiver on the other end. It makes sense. You can go back to historical winning DFS lineups, and that's what they're doing. MLB DFS, you want to stack. It's no secret. You want to stack hitters from the same team. You can go back to previous DFS winning lineups and say, oh, look, this guy stacked every night. It's the winner, basically, for the most part. MMA DFS, you don't want to play 2 fighters from the same fight. It doesn't win. PGA DFS, no one has come up with the secret sauce, the secret formula to say these are the things that you need to look at. If you do this, you're guaranteed to, potentially profit in the long run. So, just kind of wanted to add on
a ton of different strategies. That's exactly it. And there's a lot of people go about it. So I always say in our Discord, well, so-and-so said this, but the other guy says this. Like Hoop and I are on pretty different pages this week. It doesn't mean one of us will win. That's the joke we'll always say as well. It sounds like one of us are going to be rich this week. We may both lose, but it's that there's different ways to get after it and different focuses and things that people do. And then shout out to Brian. This is not about you or your comment. I'll tell you this. I love coaching, teaching, training, developing, working with people to try and help them get better at what is my number one passion, DFS. So when someone says something like that, I like to run off it. I do the exact same thing in our Discord where someone will make a comment. I'll make it a broad statement.
This is just a conversation. I mean, that was a good point to bring up just to have the conversation. I'm glad you actually brought up that comment. Definitely not going in on what you said at all.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, you got it. So anything else in the sevens, Hoop? I'll just name quickly, like for me, like a lot of them were mentioned, but Wyndham, Homa. I like the other guys that you like too, but I'm just saying like the Akshay for sure. And then Pendrith. And probably even at the bottom, Dietrich, Hoagie, Jaeger. Those are three guys that definitely can spike that I think are very interesting for the large field stuff. And if you're going to need those really top tier scores, there's going to be scoring. So I think that's kind of the setup for me is trying to utilize some of these guys. There's so many guys you can use this week to get different. I'm not saying you got to play them all together, but I do think it's at least somewhat interesting to mix those guys in versus when we get to these sixes in a minute. Someone brought it up today. I don't mind Svensson, but I understand he's getting overowned. Like he's up in the double digits now by the sounds of things, and we'll see how it actually ends up by the end of the week or when it comes out. But I think or when we see the results tomorrow. But I will say a lot of people are looking at him because I think like the made cut and the one good result here, and it's a no cut. So is he going to go out and score a bunch for you? He can, but will he? I don't know. So what's your thoughts on this 6K range? A guy like Svensson, I don't even see him at 10 yet. But he's the closest to pushing 10%. So it's just you can play wherever you want. You can get different. But I'm just saying it's things like that where sometimes people are just looking at it as a safety play versus I'd rather take on the risk on some of these guys to spike these rounds and go super low.
My take on Svensson, but it's not just because of what he's been doing recently. I've been playing Svensson before it was cool to play Svensson. So I kind of get the free pass and, I always play his ass and I will be this week. And, but again, someone's going to have to do something down here to win a GPP. Like if you're playing these guys down here, they're going to have to get into the, top 20 essentially to win. With everyone making the cut, you're going to need, depending on the contest you're entering. But if you're in the big, large field stuff, you need to find the guy that, ends up top 20 essentially. And, who can get there for GPPs. Pavon, I'm fine going back to him. He was on a little bit of a heater earlier on in the season, fell off a little bit. Now, fifth at the U.S. Open. Like, can he get things going a little bit in large field stuff? I'll take a chance on him. Eckroat, Hadwin, 67. I don't mind. Kitayama, a couple bad weeks in a row, but at two very tough courses, the Memorial and then at the U.S. Open, missed the cut. Both those events really wasn't all that close, I don't think. What do you use, 7 over and then 12 over at the Memorial? So it's been a rough couple weeks for him. I think he could potentially bounce back a little bit. Everyone's talking about this Thorn Bordson, or how do you pronounce his name? Close enough.
I still go with it. It's Bordson, but it's like some people it rolls off their tongue a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay. So that guy is 6,500. People are talking about him.
But when you say it fast, it doesn't go as well for me. Thor Bjornsson, but that's how you say it. I just can't say it well.
Yeah, that dude at 65. Victor Perez had a couple solid weeks prior to missing the cut. Seamus Power. Svensson, Lee Hodges. I'm a Lee Hodges guy, I guess. I'd like to play him. He's been playing well last 3 weeks. Actually, more than the last 3 weeks. 24th, 12th, 45. Like, if Svensson is getting substantially more ownership than Lee Hodges, I'm totally good with that pivot. Same price tag. You can, gain a little more leverage potentially. I don't really know what Lee Hodges' ownership is looking like at this point, but either way, both those guys are in play for me at 74. Rio at 63. Played those tough courses the last 2 weeks very well. 27th at the Memorial, 41st last week at the U.S. Open. Like, 41st isn't great, but at the U.S. Open, Rio, like, yeah, I'm interested in him at 63. Nick Taylor, just man, I keep clicking that name and the results not very good, but 6,100 for a guy that has won. Like he's a guy that has won multiple times. Somewhat interesting. And someone asked about Jake Knapp earlier. Like I don't necessarily love him, but like you need someone that's going to be able to score 4 rounds. Like he can score, so I guess I don't hate playing him. I mean, you can make the case for a lot of guys down here. For sure. And again, that's the reason why the upper tier is going to be very popular because you can play multiple of these guys and just make so much work.
Yeah, don't sleep. You know, as our guy says, DGen75 always said, don't sleep on Jake Knapp. This is the guy down here at 6,100 this week, definitely in play. And that's, again, guys down low that you can take shots on, that can bomb it out and do everything, kind of like Knapp and Goddard. But someone mentioned too, Eric Cole is in there. That's another thing I could see. But Thor, just call him Thor. That's the easiest way.
Perfect. Much easier.
No matter what. This is good too. We should have thought of this. I'm pissed off now. We like to keep it under an hour, and we're gonna bring up the comments. I got my favorite. I'm gonna go find it. But remember we had the week during football and people were doing their raps and rhymes. But he says,
yes.
Arms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Hoops spaghetti. Do not miss your chance to ship it. The 8 Mile one. Good one. We should have
Eminem, native Eminem, a native of Detroit as well. I mean that one it does make some sense.
All right, I gotta find mine. Just one second.
Yeah, you can't go first.
I had it pegged since day one, so I gotta find it. And this was my favorite. Hoop should be holding the check because Detroit hasn't had a trophy raiser for far too long.
Well, this is going to be easy. I mean, because I swear, like, no joke, this is the one that I was going to pick too. I was going back to find it. So, I mean,
your second favorite. You got time. I'm going to keep talking about it.
I feel like it's only fair, though. I mean, this is like the guy, no joke. I was going to find this one.
It's got to be keeper. Right. There's no keeper cut. Sorry, Hoop. We got to make him, guys. Tell Hoop he's got to pick one. So, it's going to be that one. And then, he's picking his. He's going to go back and find. I'm just going to run through it quickly on the 6K guys here. But Chris Kirk, 6,900. My take was like, what's the difference between him and Harris English? And we'll see. Again, right now I'm looking at it over on the Stone. It looks like it's about double the ownership on Harris English. So that's one. Another thing, as our guy Degenerate75 likes to say, and he's been stone accurate with these projections, is there is a surprising one at the top. And it is math, as he likes to say. That's what I was going to say. So he's right. And when you see what happens in that mid-range, maybe that is what happens up top. So we'll have to wait and see. But if you guys want to check it out, members can go check it out on the Stone. If you're not a member, you can go do it. Jason knows we need the vote. So he's even.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. But this is a good comment, though, too, because it would be great for business, to be honest with you. And, one of us take it down and, that last putt, that would be pretty exciting to be standing there and say, ship it. As soon as they make the putt or miss the putt, whatever it may be, and then you get the trophy. So that would be pretty cool, too, to be able to shout the hashtag ship it on the final putt to win it. So those are the two options.
Yeah, that was good. I definitely love that one. I'll let the people vote. So it's what's the best way to do this? It's Brian or Rick. It's Brian or Rick. Put your vote in the bottom there. Take that one off.
We'll put this comment up for a few seconds so you guys can let it simmer in. So you got this one. This is the option one. Or the other option is, do you have Rick still available? I'm trying to find it.
No, but it was Hoop should win because it's been a while since anybody in Detroit raised a trophy. So Hoop will get the job done.
We got to get that comment back up there, though. We got to find this thing. Where the hell is it? It's very important. Brian gets his time to shine right now. Rick's going to get his 10 seconds. Let's see. Boom,
a lot of engagement, which we appreciate, but that's the hard part when you're going back to find this. It's like it came in after my internet went out. So let the votes roll in. Anything else you want to mention, Hoop, just as far as this tournament's concerned? I know we're both looking, but I'll try and find it here while you're talking through it. I got all my stuff covered, but I think, that was
here it is. I think I just found it. Maybe not. No, it went missing. All right, so
then will you do that?
It was literally right above Brian's. They were back to back. Back to back. All right, so we got Rick, we got Brian.
Eckroat, Kitayama, Thor, who I talked about. If you want to be early on him, even if he gets the ownership, it's probably 5%. Like, just don't worry about that. Don't always getting too steamed. No, everyone's talking about him because they want to victory lap him, but only so many will click him into their lineup. So if you want to be one of the people that get to victory lap him for winning you money, that would be how you do it, is click him into your DFS lineup and hopefully get him there. If he gets there, I'm saying you'd be able to do that. For whatever reason, Cam Davis and Patrick Rogers popped a little, but yeah, not a ton of 6K guys for me. But when I do go down there, I'm going to pick my guys and I'm going to put them in the lineup together with some of these guys up top and even do some double stud lineups. So anything else you want to add, Hoop? I'm going to start tallying up some of these votes.
I mean, it's a pretty straightforward week. I mean, you're able to play whoever you want without much resistance, a lot of different ways to build teams, even like, 3 9K guys. Let's say you want to go Morikawa, Matsuyama, and Cantlay. You still have 7,100. Like, I know you like these builds a little bit where you're not necessarily playing the guys at the top. Still 7,100 after playing 4 9K guys. It's a lot, a lot of different ways. You can get into the 8K range with at least one more. Let's say you plug in Harmon, you're at 65. So play a couple cheap guys, and then boom, you have 3 8K guys or 3 9K guys and an 8K guy. So a lot of different ways to go about building teams this week. But a lot of the ownership will definitely be concentrated at the top. Scotty, Xander, Ludwig, and Colin Morikawa, just because of the big price breaks. You can play Scotty. Well, if you want to go down, you save 1,300. If you don't want to play Xander, then you can go down and save another 1,000 to get to Ludwig, and then like Morikawa is right there at 98. Just a lot of different ways to build teams this week. But again, should be a fun event.
Yeah, this was the initials in there just while the rest of the votes are coming in. Again, vote on your winner. It's between Brian and Rick. I've seen the tally so far and got a plan here, but just to note it, one thing for sure is if you guys didn't know, we have ShipIt now. This is included free in any monthly or annual membership. So just to go through it again quickly, it is final now, but I saved the version before it went final just so you wouldn't be able to see the final numbers. But, everybody's in there. You can lock them. You can X them out. You can set your default exposure to 0, which I've already done. So it takes everybody down. You could set your max exposure so that everybody's a max of 40%. You can turn everybody back to 0 like I did. Instead, set default to 0. What did I do here? Maybe it's because I did this. I probably have to refresh it, but just to note, what I was going to say is if you take them all to 0, the other way to do it, I know Hoop does this sometimes, is if you just go down and set your own exposures. Like if you know, okay, I want 20% of Scotty. I don't want any Xander, so I X him out. I want 20 of Oberg. 20. These are just minimums I'm setting, but that's like your core pieces that you go throughout. I like Thigala and I like Henley. And then at the bottom, I'm taking my stances. I like down in the 6K range, I want at least 15 of Chris Kirk. I want Kitayama in there as one of the guys I'm taking a stand on. I'm going to try and be early on Thor, so I put him in there. And then you start from there, and then you can go into your next settings. You can go into your build settings. You can make sure you have a certain amount of players under a certain percentage owned. So if you want 2 guys under 10%, you could change all these and then put it down so that you have 2 guys under 10%, right? So you can set that up. You can change so that there's more randomness or less turned on. You can change the total ownership on the lineups down. You say, I don't want any lineups more than 85 overall total ownership this week. I want to make sure I'm using 49.3 to 49.8 and avoid dupes. I want to get the projections mixed with the ceiling projections more because I'm playing large field tournaments. I want 3 uniques because I want to spread things out. I want a group like Hoop talked about where I have Scotty, Xander, Ludwig, and I want a minimum of 1 in 100% of my lineups. And you set that up, and then you can go up to the top, change the amount of lineups you want, and build. It'll set it up for you there. You can download the CSV and then load it up to the site. Again, if you guys want to check it out, it's easy. Go to the site, shipitnation.com, join the nation. If you're looking for just PGA, you can use this. It tells you right there about ShipIt, what you get it with. $33 a month with FGWC 15 or $254, which is less than $5 a week for the annual. Hoop, anything else you want to add before we pick the winner?
No, let's just have a good week. Get those logos up to the top of the leaderboard, and then on to the big dog next week, where hopefully it's you or I holding that big check.
And the crazy part is everyone will be mad and they'll leave. A good thing the show's over, so they won't hate us completely. But our members are in the chat and they're getting sharper time after time after time because Joanne knew exactly who we were going to give this away to, and the answer is both. So we're going to be giving away 2 memberships. Both Brian and Rick, we thank you guys. We do appreciate the comments. We want to have the fun with the votes in there, but we each picked a winner. Both you very deserving. So Brian, Emerson, Rick, Brown, both you guys, are going to win a free membership for a year, $2.99 annual. Reach out to info@shipitnation.com. Make sure you screenshot your YouTube account so that we know it's you. We'll get you the code, get you set up so that you guys get in, join the nation, and start having some fun with us in there. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Appreciate everybody for watching. Thanks to Hoop. Thanks to all the support in there for Hoop. For myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it!